You're listening to Honey, We Made a Disney podcast. Two friends since we actually memorized phone numbers to call our moms to come pick us up. Now guides on your nostalgic tour of Disney history, one magical film at a time. I'm Eddie Ferguson.
And I'm JP Waggoner. And on today's episode, we meet the best doggone dog in the world as we review Old Yeller.
So fasten that safety restraint and pull up on the yellow strap. It's time to open the vault.
Cue that Disney's sound effect. Okay, another animal movie, Eddie.
So I had this thought, if I remember correctly, just last episode you said that your two least favorite genres of movies are animals and westerns.
And this is both.
And this is both.
Perfectly timed. Perfectly timed for me to make that comment, and then we watch this.
I'm about halfway through it, just deeply invested, of course. And I remembered that, and I thought, oh, poor JB, bless his heart.
I think it'll be an interesting conversation today. I don't think we're gonna be repeating recent history of JB just being like mildly
what did you make me
somewhat awake during the review and just making sad comments the entire time. I think you might be slightly surprised at
okay, all right,
my feelings about it. But Eddie, anywhere you would like to start on this journey through the West and through this doggone movie?
I think there's only one place for us to start, and that's at the end with another wolf.
Another wolf attack.
Another wolf attack.
What is the propaganda?
I believe this is our fifth in all of our movies that we've reviewed. I think we're getting up there. There is. We've discussed this in earlier episodes, much earlier episodes. There is an all-out cultural war against wolves.
Culture war is a great, perfect example of what this is.
And I feel like we need to raise some awareness here. I think we need a Wolf Awareness Month. I think we need, a black and gray speckled ribbon that we wear in solidarity with the wolves.
With our wolf family out there that are searching for a home because they've been run off their territory. I think you had mentioned
falsely accused,
Eddie. I think you had mentioned to me maybe that they are reinstituting some of the wolf population to take care of all the deer that are running rampant.
The West, all across the West. There's even a great debate on trying to get it back into the East, because the wolves used to be all across the American continent, North American continent. And so there's people who are trying to get the wolves back. But I think too many people have seen Old Yeller and have thought, no,
don't come after my dog.
they're gonna bite my dogs.
Then everyone will get rabies, not just the dogs, but everybody. Every last person will get the rabies.
So was this a movie popular in the Waggoner household? Is this something familiar to you as you grew up?
I am 99% sure this was a movie my grandparents had, and we would watch it sometimes, or portions of it potentially, at their home. I only remember bits and pieces from it. Definitely had not watched it all the way through in many, many, many years since I was like 8 years old. So no, this was not a go-to movie for us. How about you?
Yes, this was one that it had been a really long time. Like, it was probably not since like my childhood, like early mid elementary days that I think I had watched this. But I remember very strong memories having we had the VHS copy of this. I even was looking up online what was the jacket, because I couldn't remember quite exactly, and I was like, oh, yep. Yeah, I mean, this is a I mean, for any dog lover, this is one of the movies you watch, you cherish, you dread that anything like this would ever have to come your way. And like when you lose a dog, like this would be a movie you would watch for what's the word? Cathartic reasons. Yeah. To kind of help you process.
Why would you want
these
to
emotions.
watch it?
You got to cry, you just, when those things go on, like you just got to get it out. You just got to cry it out. And sometimes you just need I got to cry some more, get it out there. And like, I had Old Yeller. My dog was Old Yeller,
You had so many animals have bitter endings to the way that they left this world.
Well, I mean, most dogs do. They're old. They kind of have
lose eyesight, lose ability to walk on two of their legs.
Yeah, this is. I mean, we're going to talk about this, aren't we? Yeah, we've got. I have a 14-year-old dog now, Lucy, who I got when I was in Mexico. Was a Mexican street dog. She's now living in her third country, which is quite remarkable when you think about it. And she's now 14, and she was sick a couple of weeks ago, and we took her to the vet, and come find out she's in early stages of kidney failure.
Whoa.
So this is hitting home watching Old Yeller, because it's like, yeah, this is. I mean, we've got some time with her still. But it's like, oh, yeah, she's not. Dogs don't live forever.
But all dogs go to heaven. So
different company. We're not reviewing that movie.
Whole nother side of emotion that movie gives you. But anyways,
yes.
I was not prepared to have an entire theme song for Old Yeller. I had never. I don't remember this song, although I remember the tune somehow. Like I just was not. I was sitting there and we turned it on. I was like, oh, he's got his own theme song. What is happening right now?
Well, he's got to have his own theme song, right? Like Disney's fresh on the heels of the Crockett craze, and I think they learned, oh, we got to have another catchy ballad on there. Best doggone dog in the West.
And those vibes of Daniel Boone, of Davy Crockett, and like came from the same place basically. And then we actually get Davy Crockett as the dad in this. He's only in the opening and the closing when he comes in and gives his son the moral of the story at the very end after all the traumatic things have happened when he wasn't around. I was like, wait, I know that guy. Isn't that it? And look it up. Oh, yeah,
Fess
it
Parker.
was.
This is now our third Fess Parker sighting between Crockett. Then he's in the opening of Disneyland special, and now this. Yeah.
It's almost like he was a hit, and they were like, let's just ride the hits as long as we possibly can.
Yeah, this is a good 2 years after both Crockett and the opening of Disneyland. So, I think things have settled just a little bit, but not too much. This is a pretty iconic Disney live action film. When you look back on what are the live action films, especially from the early years that Walt Disney himself produced, this is right at the top. This is definitely making a top 5 of most well-known, most iconic of the films that Walt Disney produced.
I see you have here on the notes to talk about poor Elizabeth. Can we just say that every interaction with Mr. Searcy is the most cringe of much of anything I've watched on any movie recently, where every second of his sheer existence makes your skin want to crawl. The only husband left home while all the other husbands went on the cattle. And like, oh, there's a reason that he was left. And you can just feel it from the mom every second that she has to be with this guy. And she's like trying to avoid talking about food. And then her son says something about food. It's like, oh, well, I'll stick around for for more of the food. And then it's just, he eats her out of house and home. And then every moment he would push, his daughter to, let me help you out. Okay. A little, Elizabeth, can you go? It was just awful. One of my least favorite characters in all of cinema.
Yeah, and he pawns off his daughter to like be the help, instead of him actually sticking around to help with something. I say, well, poor Elizabeth for a couple of reasons. Yes, she gets left alone. But it's obvious she's smitten with Travis. And stupid Travis. Like, come on, buddy. Come on. How dumb can you be? It's obvious she's got something for you.
Gives him the dog.
The dog. He didn't want anything to do with it. It's just classic, teenage romance angst going on here. But I felt for poor Elizabeth the whole time. And she just plays it so pitiful sometimes. She just got such a pitiful look on her. You're like,
that dog.
Poor sweet girl. I saw that dog. And she's got such a thick Southern drawl thing going on there. I love this movie for multiple reasons, but I think more than just the kind of the cute dog tale. And I think this is what took me back this time. In my memory, I had remembered this movie more as a boy and his dog, that kind of classic tale. But this time I watched this movie much more of a classic coming of age tale of a boy becoming a man. And I love how this is structured from, they say a man needs or a teenager needs 4 to 5 other adults in their life outside their parents to kind of like influence them to kind of figure out who they are. And I think this is a really interesting allegory or way of presenting that process where you see Travis having to step out on his own with his dad, Jim, going off for the cattle call. And you've got these 2 interesting men who show up while he's gone, right? You got Bud Searcy, who you've talked about is just cringe, and presents this like, we learn from examples we don't want to emulate. There's certain people that actually have a huge influence on our life, not in a positive way, but in a way of going, I distinctly don't want to be like that person. And then you get Bern Sanderson, who shows up, who you think for a moment, like, is this going to be a mean guy who runs off with Yeller? And then he just shows just that gentleness that strong masculinity should have. And he gets presented this other idea of manhood. And so, that struck me this time in watching this, of how much of this story is beyond old Yeller and really is a story of Travis, a young man becoming a man and leading and learning what does it really mean to be a man, and having these different characters come in and out to kind of help set those parameters for him.
Well, and Travis's story is a lot more. It draws you in a lot deeper than just, if you had Arliss just playing around in the water, catching fish, all of these things. Travis goes through a complete character development, a very distinct story that's happening here, because of these incredible like experiences. First, just like hating the dog and like mad at the dog and the dog stealing food from him, and then other things. But then you have all of these other experiences where they're like growing together, and like the dog is growing on the family and growing in importance, and like from herding cattle to saving their lives and all of these other things, to where by the end it really is earned when you finally get to the end of this thing, that I wasn't expecting it to actually do that. I thought it was just, there's gonna be hanging around and run around, then eventually he gets bitten and then he dies. No, they actually created a really intense story and narrative that the dog is like almost the guide for Travis throughout this, helping him along the way as he grows up. I was not prepared to actually be. So I sat down and said, I'm going to actually watch this and try to take it in, not do this on like a third screen somewhere and just have it running. But I was like, I'm going to sit down, watch this, give it a little bit of time. And I'm glad I did. I actually was more engaged with it than I was expecting it to be. My kids, like I've had some of the older films on and they just don't care. They'll just go do something else. But this, they were in from the very beginning. We thought so, maybe because it was my wife even said, oh, it's a boy and his dog movie. But they were completely hooked in on this. Obviously all of the...
What is going on? Give me 1 second, sorry. Sarah, it's in my pocket. Sorry. I stole her phone at dinner because she started getting church texts, and I was like, no, we're having dinner with your family. So I stuck it in my pocket, and then she couldn't find it, so she went to find a friend.
That's funny.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I was very drawn into the story. My kids were really drawn into the story, to the point where when some of the animal attacks were happening, I think the bear at first, my daughter actually got really like emotionally charged, like, I don't like this. I don't know if I like this. Like that, the whole pigs attack. Overall, Disney played another card here that I haven't seen them play. And I think they actually ended up doing a lot more in the newer films, like the 1988 to 2000 films, where they really leaned heavily on animal actors and do it really, really well, where you're watching these films going like, this is a real bear and a real dog. This dog is so freaking talented in all the different scenarios and literally hurting these
and it's
these
one
sheep.
Dog.
It's crazy.
They had one. The dog's name is Spike, and one dog does all these stunts. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up, especially the bear attack sequence. I was waiting, like as it started, I'm waiting for another like Davy Crockett moment where you're going, huh? Yeah.
Oh, and now we're looking at nature footage. Yeah.
Yeah. And they play it all the way through, and it's like, that was real. That's a real bear, a real dog, and they actually somehow figure that out. And then you get all those other sequences, like you mentioned.
When he takes down the cattle, like literally like gets the horn of the cattle and rips it to the ground. I was amazed. The part that really scared me was when when Arliss is grabbing the bear, like the bear cub. Yes. That was like, oh my gosh, this is real. He's actually playing with a freaking bear right now.
Yeah.
How are they doing this? It was intense. It was super intense to watch.
Question: did you guys at all, in naming any of your children, consider the name Arliss?
No, but it's a great name.
I've never heard of Arliss before. This was a new name. You get Jim, Katie, Travis, Bud, Elizabeth, Arliss. Somehow I missed Arliss. Sarah and I, we had never considered Arliss. I thought, wow, how did we miss that one? How do you feel about Arliss throughout this movie? We've touched on several of the other characters.
Well, he's a recurring actor. He's been in a lot of different things. Very iconic for that time period.
All of them, all the main four.
Mm-hmm. But that kid, he's just got that very iconic whiny voice that you hear and you go, oh, I've seen this kid before. I think he's in several different films.
So you've got Tommy Kirk, who is playing Travis, and you've got Kevin Corcoran, I think is how you say his name. Both were alumni of Disney's Mickey Mouse Club, the television series. And Kevin Corcoran. I don't know how you say
Corcoran?
Corcoran. He eventually, at age 90, he got named a Disney legend because he was in so many different Disney movies. I'm surprised Tommy Kirk, I don't know if he got it either, because he was in several other movies as well. He'll come up in others like The Absent-Minded Professor and others. And not too long from now, both Kevin, Tommy, and then the lady who plays the mom, Dorothy McGuire, all three of them will appear again as a family unit in The Swiss Family Robinson. So this is the first time we see them together, but they all three will come back in The Swiss Family Robinson.
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Hey,
just bring it back and go again.
This is that era, right? This is the studio system where you signed a contract with a studio and you made, movie after movie with the same studio. Disney at this time is a much smaller studio, so they don't have as many actors in that lineup. So that's where you get the same ones just kind of going over and over and over multiple times.
Are we ready to talk about the ending of this? Because I've got a funny anecdote to lead into it.
I feel like let's start with the funny and then we'll go to the tearjerker.
Okay, so if you've ever watched Friends, you'll know that Phoebe famously never saw the ending of Old Yeller. Her grandma, her aunt, whatever, her grandma would shut it off right before the big moment that we're about to talk about. Well, finally, in one of the episodes, they make her sit down and watch it, or she comes and happens to happen upon them watching it, and it like traumatizes her as an adult. I can't believe this is what actually happened in the movie. It's awful. It's awful. So we talk about that. We're laughing as we're watching it, and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about the Phoebe scene." She's like, "Yeah, I thought that's funny." Well, like 20, 30 minutes later, we're getting close to the end. Like it's right after the pig attack. My kids are starting to get really emotionally invested. They're like, what's going to happen? Oh no. Why is he red? What's happening? Why did they put a scarf around him? And it's getting really intense. We're like, man, if this is already intense, we can't even imagine what's going to happen when we get to the end of this. And it's also getting close to bedtime. And so by the time they get out of that and he's starting to feel a little bit better, we're hoping there's going to be a happy moment. There's not really any happy moments after that. And we just it gets so intense that we just stopped the movie and we just said, and they lived happily ever after. Okay, bedtime. Starting to shovel kids off to bed. And then we're like, oh, we got to do songs and prayers. In the middle of prayer, all of a sudden, I just start dying laughing. And I can't control myself at all because in the thought, my mind went, you just Phoebe'd your kids. You just did to them what Phoebe's grandma did to her. You are not giving your kids the full experience. And at the same time, I was like, yep, that's right. I'm not going to show it to them right now. And today I even asked my wife, like, hey, should we have them watch the final ending? She's like, nope. Not even a little bit. We're not going to watch that with them. So, Eddie, did you?
Your kids don't know.
No, they have no idea.
Yeller dies.
They have no idea yet. Did you watch the whole thing with your kids? Did you like break their hearts, like traumatize them?
So we've got grandparents in town, so there's lots of other activities going on. So I watched this kind of tucked off to myself while doing, I watched it all. My intention was like, oh, I'm going to sit in our room and I'm going to watch this movie while doing some other things. That was kind of and I couldn't. Like, this is such a captivating movie that I didn't get any of my other stuff done. I just focused on watching this. But I haven't. My kids have not seen this, but I did get to the end going, yeah, I think, I want them to see this. I think this is one of those movies that's good to have in the old lexicon. But your kids one day are going to get
Someday we'll watch
traumatized as
it.
adults.
But it is not this day.
It's not this day.
With a 4.5-year-old. Especially for her, I was like, no, she doesn't need any more trauma in her life right now. We can cross that. She can go to counseling because she didn't get to watch the end of Old Yeller yet. But you had written this down, like just the term Old Yeller brings in our society, like you understand exactly what that means. Like,
I found this
it's
quote.
a cinematic moment in history.
I found this quote from a film critic named Jeff Walls. And he says, Old Yeller, like the Wizard of Oz and Star Wars. Whoa. Okay. So he starts off by immediately comparing Old Yeller to the Wizard of Oz and Star Wars. And he says, has come to be more than just a movie. It has become a part of our culture. If you were to walk around asking random people, you would be hard pressed to find someone who did not know the story of Old Yeller. Someone who didn't enjoy it or someone who didn't cry. The movie's ending has become as famous as any other in film history.
He's not wrong.
No, and that moment when Travis says, he was my dog, I'll do it. Wow. I think everybody, no matter your love of animals or whatnot, like it's just, and I liked how you said that. It's an earned moment. Like Yeller is such his guide through the movie. You see Travis have this incredible arc of becoming a man, of protecting and providing. And this is a part of that. That's a part of life. Death is sadly a part of life. And he takes the ownership of it, right? He steps up to take the difficult moment. And when he says that, he was my dog, I'll do it. It's just like, it's deeply emotional, but it's emotional because it's earned. I think everybody has had that moment where you had to step up and take the responsibility for something difficult, even though, you had no impact in it happening. And that's kind of these moments that you become an adult.
When Arliss goes out and he sneaks out to try to unlock the cage and he's climbing and then they come out and then they're like, no, don't do it. And he barely gets it open. And right as he lunges, the mom comes and like all of those moments together, just like, oh, okay, good. But then of course, when he's just looking at him, it's like, so heartbreaking seeing this dog that had become his such good friend just be taken over.
Yeah, and I mean, to get a little bit technical, how you just kind of pulled out those beats there. It felt like one of the first of these older movies, and I grew up watching a lot of movies from the 40s and the 50s. Pacing and editing in general was always just a weird thing in a lot of these old movies where you're like, did they even have an editor? Did somebody really sit down and kind of get the pacing, And here, this felt like a well-edited movie, right? Like it just was so paced and crafted together so well that when that moment comes when Travis says that, after what, just happened, what you'd said, like you have so much of these other emotions built up to that moment, then that happens and it just pulls you this other direction. It's great editing. It's great storytelling.
Well, there's so many things about this movie that shouldn't work. At least to me, they shouldn't work, but they do. Like we said, it's a Western. It's primarily about a dog, a Boyne's dog, which should be automatic no's for me, and I should just be out. A lot of this film are just small vignettes. Like what kind of random thing is the dog going to get into today? A lot. And they're just like, it's just like fade in, crossfade to the next crazy scene, then crossfade to the next crazy scene. And it shouldn't work, but they build upon each other. And there's setups and payoffs. Like he steals the food one day, and then the next day when it really matters that he doesn't steal the food, he doesn't. And like kind of like goes above me. And then he does something else that like annoys them. but then they're slow building to building trust throughout all of these little vignettes that end up leading to the finale. There's so many times where I was like, this movie shouldn't work, but it does. And I think a big part of that is what you said was editing, but also just great storytelling of like, these aren't wasted vignettes. They're meaningful. It's not just a random all for gags. They're meaningful.
And I would throw in there another reason why this works is great acting from the two child actors. I think they rise to their part. They're solid. Especially, I mean, Kevin Corcoran, however we want to say his last name. I mean, he's the annoying, bratty little boy, but it doesn't come across as
he gets pretty intense
fake
at times.
Or forced. Yeah.
He comes in really, really hot on some stuff where it's not just like funny, playful. He's like really feeling it. Like you're actually like I was afraid watching him nail him with rocks. Like, bro, you better like duck your head a little bit. These are gonna hurt you. Some of that furiosity from some of his moments where he went full 120%. He didn't hold back at all.
Furiosity. What a great word there.
Maybe I'm thinking about Furiosa this summer as one of the movies on my list, but
there you go. Tommy Kirk also, I mean, this is his movie. He's outside of the actual, titular character of Old
Spike.
Yeller and Spike being the actor who steals the show. I mean, this is Tommy's story. This is Travis's story. It feels real. It feels honest. It's a very honest performance.
So, Eddie, is there any representation in the parks for Old Yeller?
To my knowledge and research, no.
Interesting.
As
big and famous as this movie is.
Yeah. I mean, I would also be interested in what would you come up with? Like, how would you?
A dog park?
Yeah. Like at least, so where we often like to go, the Fort Wilderness campgrounds there at Walt Disney World, like they have several like Davy Crockett references. And so I thought, oh man, there would definitely be some type of Old Yeller reference there. No, none that I can find. I'm pretty sure that the instrumental version of the theme song is played there at the resort.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I can't, I can't find any other, even just kind of throwaway naming, like name the dog park there. It's Wagon Tails Dog Park, not Old Yeller's Park or something like that. Maybe they would be afraid, like if we call it Old Yeller's Park, nobody will bring their dog because there's afraid like they'll die there or something,
That very well could be.
That's what I wonder is like, maybe you don't. This is a dramatic movie, right? This is not. It's got its humorous moments, but it's very much a drama. And what do people remember? Like, what do they? When you say Old Yeller, they think of the dog's death at the very end. So how do you want to remind them of that at the happiest place on earth? Probably not. Probably I would guess not. One of my favorite references to Old Yeller. This is. Do you remember when we reviewed the late 90s, early 2000s Disney movie Rocket Man?
Yeah.
And he accidentally mixes up the food tubes with the medical tubes. And one of the characters takes a whole bunch of toothpaste in their mouth and starts foaming at the mouth. And he goes, "Look, Julie's doing her Old Yeller impression."
Old Yeller impression.
"No, Pa, I don't want Yeller to die." I love that movie, Rocket Man, and him replaying that scene of Old Yeller. But I mean, that goes to tell, like, it's a random comedy movie from the 90s, and they pull off like this Old Yeller impression, and everybody knows exactly what's going on the second it happens. So, yeah. I did have to look up one thing of hydrophobia. I'm pretty sure that this is
that's rabies.
Rabies, right? Yeah. So it's like, yes, sure enough, that's rabies, but they didn't know exactly what it was. They called it hydrophobia because most would stop drinking water when you got to the highest levels. You'd stop drinking water, and that is ultimately what animals and sometimes people who got it, they would die actually from not drinking water. The illness would go into their minds and they would literally go crazy and stop drinking water. And, human beings, animals can't go, more than 24, 48 hours without water. So that's why the movie calls it hydrophobia, in case you were curious.
That's what they called it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can I give one last random comment here? And this has happened a lot. This is a thing about Disney Plus. This has nothing to do with Old Yeller. This is just a little like, what's going on here with Disney Plus? So I finished watching Old Yeller, as we've described, deeply emotional, moving experience. All the things that we've just discussed are going through my mind, and the credits are going. And Disney Plus does its thing where it shrinks the screen for the credits and says, you may also enjoy, and makes a movie recommendation.
Of course.
It recommends Moana.
How does those two things even come close to connecting?
I have no idea. And what's interesting is this is now the third. Yeah. This is now the third or fourth time we've finished some movie that's not animated or anything else, and Moana is what is recommended. And so I know, I think we've mentioned here on a couple of times that, Moana is the number one streamed movie on Disney Plus, right? Is it because they keep recommending it to everybody? Is that why?
Do people actually want to watch it, or are they just continuing to recommend it? Maybe their algorithm is wrong.
Here we go. Maybe I had to do this. I don't know. But that was my random comment here. Somehow in Disney algorithms, Old Yeller and Moana are similar enough stories that I would want to watch Moana right after Old Yeller.
I forgot to mention this before, but speaking of awkward endings, the scene right after shooting Old Yeller, the music goes up and we get the theme song again. It's like, and it's just hanging in there. And then all of a sudden it's like, dad's home, I'm just like, come on, people. Like, we should have smoothed this out. This was a little bit easier. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, well, dad's here to save the day and to give the life lesson. And it's just like, I can't turn that fast. So we just saw this kid's life, like,
change
grow
forever.
Up in front of it, change forever. Like, we need a little bit more time in between it. But
if he's so distraught to not even enjoy his new horse, I'm too distraught to enjoy the song.
A little bit. Oh man. Well, Eddie, we're here. It's time to rate this film 1 to 5. What rating are you going to give this film?
I'm going to give this a 5. I'm going to say this is an essential.
Full 5.
A full 5. I think it, like, come on, what's the guy's name? Jeff here, the critic. He compares this to The Wizard of Oz and Star Wars, like, I think these are all three of those movies are ones that I would say, like, every red-blooded American needs to see these movies. And so I'm going to say it's essential. It's a number 5.
Well, I'm not going to go all the way there with you on that. Sorry to burst your bubble. I know you're shocked that I wouldn't give a dog movie a full 5 essential.
I'm just hoping that you don't shove it back in the vault.
It's definitely not back in the vault. So we're kind of wheedling our way to the spot where this is going to be. I I honestly am going to go with 4 classic. Like
There we go.
I think more out of anything. I'm not running to watch this movie again, but this is the second animal movie that has just caught me completely by surprise that I was not expecting to be as drawn in, as caught
Iron
up in
Will,
the story,
right, was the first
as Iron
one.
Will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think maybe more than anything, the reason I'm giving it as high as I am has to do with how shocked I was that I was engaged, enthralled, like emotionally invested. So I'm not going to go the full way, but I will full 5, but I'll give it a 4 classic.
Well, you're going to have to at least watch this movie again in about 5 years' time within that period. Otherwise, you will scar your children forever.
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 Like, Old Yeller. What do you guys mean Old Yeller dies? My dad said that he lives forever.
What are the chances someone is randomly listening to this episode and they just found out Old Yeller dies because of listening to us?
If they're a kid listening with their parents, I'm sorry. We probably should have put a warning at the front of this. But then again, y'all knew that this was going to be spoilers everywhere.
Yeah.
But if it's an adult, I'm sorry. But you had time. But for the kids,
JB,
I'm sorry.
can you let our listeners know where they can go to donate to our wolf preservation fund?
It's 1-800 wolves don't kill people.
I feel like we should turn a page on our honeywemade.com page into like some type of wolf awareness.
Wolf awareness.
Let's create it. Let's come up with the black and white speckled ribbons.
If we ever get a sponsor for this show, we're going to take a portion of those proceeds and we're going to give it to a wolf awareness organization.
If we get sponsors for this show, we are going to go to D23 and pass out pamphlets for Wolf Awareness Month.
For Bluey. There we go.
Now that we have got you all filled up on your Disney nostalgia, you're feeling the feels of your dogs, of your youth and childhood, we've got some Disney news for you. This past week, there was some pretty big Disney news going on. JB, you want to take us there?
Well, the most obvious thing that was going to happen, but we still spent time talking about its potential impact, even though we all kind of knew nothing was going to happen from it, which is Iger survives. He fought off Nelson Peltz and his gang of merry men and survives another year as the running Disney doesn't have to worry about Peltz, at least for now. Who knows? I think he might have another run at it. But then again, Peltz is pretty old at this point, in his 70s or 80s, and doesn't have a lot of opportunities left. But they held him off. It seemed like it was like 75%, like 3/4 of the people voted in favor of all of Disney's people. So I think it was a $40 million well spent.
It was, So the whole board was up for re-election back at the stockholders meeting. Nelson Peltz had targeted 2 specific board members. He never targeted Iger's board seat. Iger got like 98% on the vote for his specific board seat. But the one that Peltz was trying to take out stayed on the board, the full board that, Iger and the company put forward. Peltz still, though, I mean, it was close to like 35% that he got. So it was a substantial number. The more substantial number is a lot of people. So I was watching a lot of CNBC. The day after the vote, CNBC had a long form interview with Bob Iger, kind of talking through everything. And then, of course, they interviewed Nelson Peltz. From the beginning of this proxy fight to now, Disney's stock started doing quite a lot better, especially this first quarter of the year, to which a lot of people, specifically Nelson Peltz, is trying to claim victory for that he push them and kind of move them along. I think that there's some truth to that. I think I mentioned that last time.
There are some things that they changed. Yeah.
I think they got serious quicker because of this and realized, oh, we've got here you go, a fiduciary responsibility to our stockholders, and they woke up. That being said, it is now estimated that Peltz has earned his investment firm upwards of $1 billion because of the rise in Disney stock through all of this.
Wow.
It's estimated. It is somewhere near $1 billion. They won't say exactly, but yeah. So Peltz, yeah, I mean, did he really want to be on the Disney board or whatnot? Or was this one will never, I think he did want to be on there, but at the end of the day, he walks away, $1 billion more in his hedge fund. Disney gets to keep their whole board. I think they're really happy with it all.
So what happened with Josh D'Amaro? Some new Disney park stuff happening.
Disney goes, so you got to remember that's not the only thing that Disney had going for it last week. We mentioned this in last episode. They settled with the state of Florida. All lawsuits are paused or in the process of being kind of canceled out as they make all these settlements. So all of the the big unknowns that Disney has kind of had hanging over them are now resolved. They are on, firm footing. Stock's doing a little bit better. They have a clear path of what they want to do. And they have said multiple times, we're going to invest over the next 10 years, $60 billion. That's billion with a B, $60 billion in parks and experiences. So think Disney theme parks and the cruise line, right? $60 billion over 10 years, over a decade. That's a significant amount of money. They mentioned this a long time ago, but they've never really spelled out specifics, in part because they wanted to use this as a negotiating piece, mainly with the state of Florida, right? Like, hey, we're ready to invest all this money. You keep playing around with us. Why would we invest there if you're going to be doing these different things to us? Now that that's all cleared out, Josh D'Amaro, who is the chairman of Disney Parks and Experiences, he comes out and confirms, yes, we are moving forward. We have plans. We know how we're going to spend this money. 70% of it, so that's around $42 billion, is planned specifically for expansion, park and cruise line expansion, that they are going to build new things. $42 billion. So to put that into perspective, we could get 42 new Galaxy's Edge, right? Because each one of those cost $1 billion. That's kind of the scale that we're talking about when you think about what could $42 billion.
How many cruise
really
lines
do.
could we have gotten?
Right. I mean, cruise ships are a lot.
Star Wars Cruise Liner or whatever that they shuttered.
And then they said the remaining 30%, and I thought this was equally as exciting and as an important. The other 30%, which is about $18 billion, would include things like bringing back quality of improvements to the park, maintenance overall, and such as the returns of certain perks that disappeared following the pandemic that have not been seen yet.
Like, what are you hoping for? What are you hoping for, Eddie?
They don't know. Well, I mean, the big one that everybody wants to see come back is, at least at Walt Disney World, if you flew into Orlando, you could at home put these yellow tags on your luggage and you wouldn't see your bag until it showed up in your hotel room there at Disney. And you got off your plane and you walked straight over to a bus, and it was Mickey's Magical Express. You just hop on and it would take you right over to your Walt Disney World Resort. And it was like this magical Disney bubble. You got on your plane in whatever city you're flying out of, and boom, yeah, everything's taken care of for you ever since then. I think that's the one everybody's really, really hoping for. I think the big one is there's a lot of downtime. Like the rides and stuff are not maintained like they used to be. Many blame this on the Chapek era, that he was such a penny pincher that he tried to cut corners in the maintenance department. And so you have a lot of rides that go down a lot and often, and it causes a lot of issues. And so there's several parks that really suffer because of that. So I think those are the two, things that people are like, oh, I really hope that's what this comment is all about.
I really hope that they bring back the Magical Express, Mickey's Magical Express, before my own trip to Disney World. That would be fantastic if they would take care of that. Can you take care of that, Bobby? You got some time on your hands, some money?
Let's do
throw
that
back in there.
Well, and it was often referred to at the end of your trip. People would call it Mickey's Tragical Express, because your last night of your stay, a little flyer would show up on your door and say, "Hey, be at the front of your resort at this time. Mickey's Magical Express will come and get you." And so, and the same thing there, you could check in your luggage at the front of your resort, and you wouldn't see it until you landed in your home airport. And that's when you would reclaim it. Like you could check in for your flight at the front of your Disney resort.
That's insane.
Just great. Just wonderful. We'll see if it comes back.
Here's hoping that it will. Last but not least, we got the new Bluey episode, one single episode that is a teaser for
Ghost
the mega
Basket.
episode. Yes, then the final episode, which is coming out next week, this coming Sunday. Ghost Basket, great name for the episode, but a lot of speculation. The actors have come out and actually spoken about it as well, or like the creators have come out and spoke about it as well, because there's such a fervor from all the parents around the world. Eddie, do you have good people around you right now?
I have good people around me right now. I've not looked. I'm afraid to look at what the internet is really talking about. Sarah watched this episode without me. I had some work stuff to do, and so the kids really wanted to see it. They watched it, and as soon as I got home, she's like, "Go watch the new Blue episode right now." I'm like, "What happened?" No, you just got to go.
I can't talk about it. We can't talk about it.
So are we going to talk about it? Are we going to say what happens? We need to speculate. I mean, all right. So if you don't want spoilers, this is your time.
You shouldn't. Yeah.
Yes,
this has been another episode of Honey, We Made It.
Yeah. So the very end, you zoom out and their house is for sale.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the end of Bluey?
It was shocking because the whole time they're playing like they're selling the house, and then you're like, oh, this is just a funny whatever episode, and then it pulls out and they actually are selling the home, and you're like, this is a beautiful way to end this, but also so many feelings, so many, especially like they sell the house is like a character in the show, but also like all the merchandise, what all the different scenes, although
you can buy the house.
An actual, you can buy the house, but also there's also some like Reddit theories about how the house is actually set up, because like the physics don't quite always match up to where things, anyways, it's just a big deal. They can't just go on with the show without this house. So it seems to be like the logical way of their transitioning it. Loved having the grannies there to be a part of that. We're getting one more episode.
And it's a mega episode. It's like 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be multiple. So I'm assuming they're going to go around to a lot of different things and like bring other characters into it. And so the speculation is next week, literally the very last episode of the series, of the series finale of Bluey.
And this is also a global release. These 2 episodes are being dropped globally at the same time. Like it's airing on Australian Broadcasting Company, dropping on all the global Disney Pluses simultaneously. Like this was all coordinated.
Yeah, because we've had to wait for all of them for like extended periods of time.
Yeah, usually like they air down in Australia and like a year later we get the season or something crazy like that.
So my wife was the most concerned of anybody in our household about it. My son's like, "Oh, they're selling the home," and then
do you understand what this means?
Do you understand what this means? So she looked it up. The creators came out and they released a statement. And this Sunday is not the final episode of the series. They are taking a sabbatical for a little bit of time, but then they will come back with at least one more season. I don't know how they're doing it if they don't have a home anymore. Seems like a little bit of a problematic thing, unless they're going to be just cross-country road tripping. We're going to get all of Australia here in this as they go from Queensland to Sydney or something. But this is not the very end. It is the end for a little bit, but not the final end, Eddie. We're going to get another season.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not wanting Bluey to end. However, I was optimistic at the prospect of them ending it well. Right? There's so many things that become super duper popular and they just let it go and go and go and go. And it loses its quality. It loses what it was. Like this has been such a good show, just well written, constructed, everything. Perfect. And it is reaching this just fever pitch, right? Like even here, I go to a Walmart store here. There are Bluey aisles of stuff here in Costa Rica. It is huge. So there was a part of me that was like, oh, they thought this through. They're going to end well. They're going to and I like things going out on the top, right? Just sail off into the sunset while it's all fever pitched. Am I happy we're going to get more? Yes, for sure. Like I love Bluey desperately. But I just don't want it to lose something. You know what I mean?
I don't know how they could shut this thing down with the cash cow that it is. Like you said, Bluey everything. It's at the top of its game right now.
My kids' Bluey headphones are sitting next to me.
You could be using that instead of your AirPods that died.
I could. Oh, man. Yeah. So we'll see. I wonder why this all needed to be coordinated then to kind of drop globally all at the same time. Because as soon as I saw that for sale sign, I thought, oh, this is like everybody else. But
what a way to do it too. Sell the home. That's a great way to do it.
It's a great way. This just feeds into more of the theories, the Reddit theories of Bandit is really a spy. Have you seen these theories?
Seen a lot of other theories, so I'm not surprised.
Oh yeah. Well, that's good. Tune in next week as we dissect this full 40-minute episode. We may just do a whole episode on.
We haven't done a special episode in a while. I think maybe
we haven't. Well, I have a feeling we'll need to take next week off to emotionally recover from the episode. And then in 2 weeks we can come back and we can come back together, give it a proper review. I mean, especially we just watched Old Yeller. Now we're gonna go see something that is obviously going to be quite moving, quite emotional in Bluey. Yeah, I'm gonna need a nap.
I think we all are. Oh, goodness. Well, before we go, Eddie, I hope you and the family have a wonderful week ahead of you.
We hope so as well. We are headed, my in-laws are in town, and we're going to go visit a place here in Costa Rica that we've been wanting to visit. It's what Lewis would call a pointy volcano. We're going to go see the pointy volcano.
Which is different than a non-pointy volcano?
Yes. Well,
volcano?
I mean, there's about 9 different volcanoes here in Costa Rica. All of them, except for this one, just look like a regular mountain. And then you get up to the top of it and you're like, oh, yeah, that's a crater. Okay, that's a volcano. The one we are going to looks like your science project volcano, a steep, conical volcano, very picturesque. So that's where we will be, mostly swimming in the hotel pool because that's what our kids love more than anything else.
That's what you're there for.
So we hope to be building some of our own family nostalgia memories. So with that, all of you have gotten your weekly dose of Disney nostalgia.
Be sure to subscribe to Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast wherever you listen to your other favorite podcasts, and give us a look on YouTube as well.
While you're there, please like or leave a 5-star review and share it with your best friend.
You can also check us out at honeywemade.com, where you can see all our nostalgic reviews of Disney movies.
And sign the petition for Wolf Awareness Month. Tune in here in 2 weeks as we review, maybe Bluey, but definitely coming up is Sleeping Beauty.
Thank you for listening, and remember, he's the best doggone dog in the West.